In this lesson, we'll cut chamfers with turning toolpaths. After completing this lesson, you'll be able to create a chamfer toolpath and modify chamfer toolpath parameters. In Fusion 360, we want to get started with the dataset external threads. We should be in the manufacturer workspace and note that the units are set to inch. We have a facing toolpath, we have a profile, and we also have a single groove. Now we need to take care of finishing off the chamfers before we get into creating external threads. In order to do this, we're going to go to our turning dropdown and select Turning Chamfer. From here, we want to select an appropriate tool, and for us that's going to be tool number 10, which should already be inside of the document. Then we need to select our geometry. For these chamfers, we're going to select the back edge of both chamfers. We're going to leave all of the default clearance values and move on to the passes. We're not going to make any adjustments just yet. I just want to make sure that we note that we're using a single pass. And notice that we're not using the reverse chamfer pass, and all of these settings are going to be the defaults, and we'll say OK. If we take a look at this from the top, you'll notice that we've cut a little too deep. We can see exactly where the tool is gone, and we've removed too much material. This has happened because the model that we're working with has modeled chamfers. If it had a sharp corner, we'd be able to use the same toolpath and simply dictate how deep we wanted to cut. But since we're using a design that already has these modeled, we need to make sure we set the chamfer width to 0. We can leave the extension and the angles if we want and simply say OK. So that width value needs to be set to 0 whenever we're using a modeled chamfer, but on a square corner, we can set it to whatever value we need. Let's go ahead and simulate this and take a look at the results. I'm going to drag the tool path from the bottom and just take a look at where the tool is coming in. It's going to move over to the other one. You can see that it cleans off that last little bit in the corner and retracts away. If we wanted to keep it a bit closer, maybe change some of these rapid and these feed moves, we could adjust some of those planes to get the tool a little bit closer. Let's make that change by going into chamfer and making that edit. And inside of the radii, you'll notice that inside of this operation, we have the different planes, the outer radius offset, which is based on our stock, and then we have this outer retract offset. I'm going to drag this in so that it's a little bit closer, and I'm going to say OK. Now you'll notice it still starts all the way on the outside, but it moves in and it only comes out to this position when it's going between chamfers. This will save us a little bit of time, and if we want to make it a little bit closer, we can do that as well. You simply have to understand where you're cutting and whether or not you have any clearance issues. For this toolpath, I'm going to leave it as is, and I'm going to make sure I go back to my home view and save this before moving on.